So we'll call the meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. This is the regular meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West, held in Council Chambers at 216 Main Street West, Swan, Manitoba. This 28th day of February 2023 at 7 p.m. Present this evening, well, all of us, which is nice. Myself, Reeve, Gade, Deputy Reeve, Burick, Councillors Carrie, Blosha, Byron, Zbirun, Neely, Kushniryk, and McGregor, Interim CAO Pat Ellingson, and our videographer Jeremy Bergen is with us tonight as well. We'll kick things off tonight. We're skipping all the way down to 2 because we don't have anyone absent tonight, so we'll take a peek at the agenda. Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of Council held this 28th day of February 2023 shall be adopted as presented. As their mover, please. Councillor Kushniryk to move, Councillor Burick to second. Discussion, questions, additions for the agenda. Does anybody wish to add anything tonight? Not seeing a stampede there, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. We move now to number 3 on the agenda, the minutes. Be it resolved, the minutes of the regular council meeting held on February 14th, 2023 be adopted as presented. Is there a mover? Councillor Neely, and seconded by Councillor McGregor. Has everyone had a chance to look over the minutes? Any errors or omissions that we need to correct on there? I noticed this particular copy of them shows the couple resolutions we did not vote on. So I think I would suggest to staff we're going to remove 9.3 because it was never voted on. And there's also the resolution here for the committees under 12 that we didn't bring. So I think we'll remove both of those from the minutes before they go into the minute book. I think everything else I looked at looked like it was probably fine.
9.3 you said?
9, 3, and 12. Anybody else have anything? Does anyone need a minute to finish reading it before we move on? Okay.
Just have to say I sacrificed a lot for that day.
And you'll never catch up.
It was remarkable. So, you know, while you keep reading, I'd hate to disappoint you, but we were at the planning district meeting, and we got into discussion on when Swan Valley West was holding council meetings. And miraculously, everybody at planning district agreed we would hold one on Wednesday, February 14th next year.
Yeah. That was a sweetheart special meeting, that one.
Is everybody good for the question? All right, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Now, Mr. White, was he joining us tonight?
No.
Oh, he's not coming? Okay. So we're not doing public works. We have Mr. Bobick on as a delegation, but not until 9 p.m. So we'll proceed on to general business. A guest.
I gotta put a chair out for that.
Not used to
Wait
this.
and see who it is.
There we go, that chair.
Trick or treats. Trick or treats.
Oh, so we'll go to 6-1.
Come on in.
Oh,
Okay. Somebody is parked behind Carrie.
oh, okay.
I'll just boot.
Well, we've got time to read the thing at least, or maybe there isn't a resolution. Start looking at the gas tax agreement amendment, please, and we'll get to that once we get this sorted out with the vehicles. Essentially, this is updating for the fact that it's now His Majesty the King instead of Her Majesty the Queen. Also changes the titling on the agreement. It adds fire equipment and fire halls as a valid use to the agreement, which is something that was announced last year already, but hadn't actually been put into the agreement yet. And then doesn't change
Hey,
much here.
Little Chev 2M license plate 255.
Byron?
For you?
Let's go.
You win. Just give me your keys and we already know this right here. Good night.
Well, we did say we wanted a slightly more interesting meeting for the viewers at home. We may have gotten that right. Does anyone that's here have questions on these amendments? They're basically looking for us, of course, to sign this and send it back to them. Which probably means we should have a resolution, so we'll just add one in here quick. Be it resolved that the council, of Swan Valley West read the updated what do they call it? Manitoba gas tax
Federal gas tax agreement, that one?
municipal gas tax agreement.
Oh, okay.
Didn't we change the name of it now though?
I'm just reading the top of the
Community.
amendment number 1 of the municipal gas tax agreement between Manitoba. I'm gonna call it that.
Because now it's called the Community something fund, Community Building Fund.
But I don't think the agreement even changed. Because the agreement still says read the amendment to that agreement.
It says in each case replaced with the phrase county community building funds. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, we're not supposed to call it the gas tax anymore. It's
But it's not amended to be that new name until we approve this.
Oh,
So
okay,
we have to approve the old name
okay,
and then call it by the new name after.
okay.
As proposed by the province. Okay, so we have a resolution. Be it resolved that the council of the municipality of Swan Valley West agrees to the updated municipal gas tax agreement as proposed by the province of Manitoba. Is there a mover?
We'll wait for Byron maybe.
We'll move in second,
Okay.
and then we'll wait to vote before he gets back. Seconder? Mr. Neely.
Mostly name changes.
Most of the name changes.
Fire hall
Yeah.
and fire halls. And also fire station.
So we have a resolution on the table, be it resolved that the council of the municipality of Swan Valley West agrees to the updated municipal gas tax agreement as proposed by the province of Manitoba. Are there any further questions or discussion on this? If not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 6.2 Green Team applications. Now, to be clear, we have not yet heard that we've been approved for these, but generally we are. And the thought process here was that the sooner we advertise, the better our chances of finding candidates. So I have a resolution for that. Be it resolved that the council of Swan Valley West advertise for 2 Green Team positions for the summer of 2023, and that the requirement of the positions be holding a valid driver's license in addition to all other government-imposed requirements. And we may want to discuss the driver's license thing once we get this moved and seconded. Is there a mover? Don't all rush. Councillor Kushniryk, and a seconder, please.
Carrie.
Councillor
We were
Blosha.
fine. I'll give
Where's
it.
Councillor Blosha? One moment, please. We'll fix something. Councillor Blosha is not in our attendance as being here, so let me just go check her in. And that will make sure that we can have her vote.
I'm here.
I believe the computer's about to agree with you. Refresh on that. So it was moved by Kushniryk, seconded by Councillor Blosha. Discussion on the resolution, specifically the driver's license requirement. Do you want to do that, Councillor Blosha?
Well, just knowing from applying for Green Team applications before, if you look on the funding, it says 15 to 24, I believe. So I don't know if you can specify that.
Let's see, preference given
Preference given to,
However,
but you, like Green Team is 15 to 24, so 15-year-olds do not have a license.
But you're not required to hire 15
No.
because they apply, are you? Like, okay, because
No, you are not required, but I'm just saying,
Because
what
if
if
you're gonna
that's
drive a
all you get?
lawnmower, they have to have a license for it. Then you can say, well, you have to have a license so you can drive this lawnmower.
No, I'm just saying that.
Okay. Other questions, comments? What's our preference? Shall we change it to driver's license preferred?
I'd rather see it say
Work
that.
for everybody? Okay. And that a And driver's license is preferred. Okay, so be it resolved that the Council of Swan Valley West advertised for 2 Green Team positions for the summer of 2023, and that a valid driver's license is preferred in addition to all other government-imposed requirements. The mover and seconder are okay with that? Any other discussion?
I'd like to know what you plan on paying for a wage, because they will ask.
What would we like to pay them?
15.
What's the minimum wage now?
What's the wage
We
last
were
year?
above minimum before and we're paid
We get half of minimum.
half of minimum.
Half of minimum wage,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we always topped it up a little bit,
But minimum wage is also moved up a
moving
little
up to
bit.
15.
Not yet.
14 something.
15 in the fall, isn't it?
Yeah,
15 in the fall, yeah.
And last year was 1576, if I remember correctly.
Are you gonna get,
1576
are you gonna
last
get
year.
anybody to apply if, means, what is it, from 50 to 24-year-olds? I mean,
Well,
you're not gonna get somebody that's 20 years old, 22, that's gonna say, oh, well, I'm gonna come from minimum wage, right?
No, last year we were 1576, I'm being told, so we're above minimum by about $1. Do we wanna go a little higher, do we wanna stay at 1576? Minimum will be 14 and change during the summer, it goes to 15 in the fall.
There's been some inflation, so let's go to at least 17.
So that's-
How does the group feel about 17? Seeing some yeses, some nos. Those that are saying no, please tell us.
And what did you say was last year?
15, so it'd be $1.25 an
No, it was
hour more.
1576.
Yeah, it'd be
About $1
$1.25.
more. 16, 7, what, okay, 16, well, you said it's close to 17.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You probably get better applicants at 17.
Do I have enough for 17 to,
Gone once?
Yeah.
Councillor Burick,
Gone
you ready with
twice.
that?
Okay.
Okay, so it's
Dollar
gonna
is
be
close.
$17 this year. Any other discussion? If not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. 6.3, whereas the notice of tax requirement has been received from the Swan Valley School Division, therefore be it resolved, the school levy is received will be added to the 2023 budget. So mover, please.
Just a question.
Sure.
How much was it last year, do we know?
Sorry, I don't.
In theory, well, it'll be different because of assessment a little bit, but the mill rate is the same, isn't it, for them? Aren't they required to keep that the same now? Something
Well,
like
they may
that.
have raised it, I mean,
Would you like me to go look?
Yeah, could you
I mean,
check, could you
there's
check
not much we
that?
can do
I'd be
about it.
curious too.
No. Yeah, let's
I'm
move
just
and second
curious.
it while we're checking, because
I'm
we
just
can discuss it
curious.
some more. Do we have a mover, please? Councillor Neely, and someone to second that? Councillor Zbirun. I noticed it says it doesn't have to be paid until January of 2024, so we could put it all in a term deposit. Make a few dollars.
Did they split it before at one time?
We generally, I think, it's paid in two batches.
That's what I thought it was, twice.
I don't know what interest on $3.3 million would be, but it must be substantial.
100 grand. This is net of the education property tax. Aren't they phasing this out totally eventually? Or what's going on?
They keep promising they're going to, but it hasn't happened yet.
2
So
years-
far as-
2
yeah.
years now, we got a rebate, right?
And so far as yet, we collect the whole amount, we give it to the school division, and then the government writes a check back to the people we just collected it from.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I thought it was like a 4-year or 5-year phase out thing, but
I guess we'll see what happens this fall too with that.
Right.
I mean, it's not like we're not gonna have to pay it, it's just gonna come out of a different pocket.
So last year was, sorry, it's gone down slightly. Last year was $3,375,974. So this year it's down approximately $78,000 from last
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
Just a little bit lower.
But I can't quite grasp this net of the education program. What does that mean?
Wonder what caused that?
I'm not sure, I don't know if they even do education property tax credits anymore, do they?
They're phasing them out,
Yeah,
but
so
there is
there's
still
still a
a
few.
portion
Okay.
remaining.
So essentially, if you get a credit on your tax bill for it, we don't give that part to the school district because we never collected it. But most
So
people
that's all
don't
that
get
is.
the credit.
Okay. And nothing to do with rebates or nothing. Farm tax credit, farm tax rebate, nothing to do with that stuff.
This would be the one, at one time, people that just owned a house got $400 or $500 or something, right? And then that kind of changed and become less, and that would be what we're referring to. Any other questions or discussion? I'll call a question and those in favor. That's carried. 6.4, the Benito LUD meeting held, their meeting a week ago, must be. And they have, the minutes are here along with some recommendations they made. So we'll take a minute and just look through these ones and see what we want to do with them. So they are asking to have a social media account for the LUD committee, which brings up a policy question for us because we have policy on the books of who media spokespeople are, and none of them are. And we also just at our last meeting passed a additional policy for our insurance company, spelling out that we would have one media person, not a bunch of them. So I don't know how we would do that for them. We could open it for them, but it might be difficult within policy to allow them to post to it without some filtering going on, of them essentially having to send in what they wanted to post for approval first.
But is it, sorry,
Go ahead.
is it, so they want to use it like say to, today garbage isn't going to be picked up today and here's the reason why, is that
some
what
of
the
it, but I
purpose
think-
is, or up reminders of what's up and coming, is that
think-
what they want it for?
Maybe also community events was discussed, you know,
Yeah.
promoting Benito stuff a little more. I don't want to see us in a position where we post something that's maybe
No.
not ready for prime time, and then have to deal with it as a
Then
council after that.
how do you control that?
Yes,
You know,
you know,
I mean, that's fine today, but next year or 2 years or 4 years, I mean, you know, how do you control that?
well, we've certainly seen, you know, we've seen one of our social media accounts that has posted some things that may not have been approved prior to posting. And, you know, at this point, we can't even log into the account anymore because somebody else has the password for it. So certainly something to be careful of. If we do these things, we keep a pretty tight control over, so it doesn't run off, you know, 4 years from now, if there's different people in council, we find out the new council can't do stuff.
But so the Swan Valley West page is there to use, could they not run that through you and post through there and make
They
it
could.
known that have Benito look at those too?
Good.
I don't know,
Yeah.
then you all have one page and sure, go ahead, put Benito events on there.
Yeah. So we'll talk about it with the committee a little more and see if that would maybe be enough for them to be happy. The next one, they're asking that the Village of Benito signs be put up. So I checked, we do indeed have the Village of Benito signs, there's the nice blue ones that used to be there. What are the thoughts of the group on that resolution? I guess what I'm looking for here ultimately, their resolutions don't mean we do it unless we approve them. So if we see things here we want to approve, we'll pass a resolution that says we want to approve certain resolutions, otherwise they just kind of sit there until we do something with it. So what's our thought of those Benito signs?
Were they not up before?
They haven't been for a few years because they say Village of Benito instead of LUD of Benito.
Oh,
But my angle was that perhaps we say, oh, this is a historic thing, we put up these signs, it makes the town look nice.
Yeah.
So it says Village instead of LUD, it's nice. So I don't know what the thoughts of the group are though. What does everybody think? Should we put them up, should we not?
I just think as my mindset, the LUD is like a taxation boundary. The village is still a population description of the size of our town.
no,
Like
but
we're still a village of Benito, no matter what.
Put the signs up.
you don't say we go to the LUD of
No,
somewhere, we're going to Benito or Kenville or Durban or
Yeah.
Cowan or wherever it might be, you know?
Okay.
Really makes no difference, it makes people feel better, all the better, I guess.
The next one, they're number 7. Be it resolved, the LED committee agreed to make a one-time grant of $100,000 to the utility fund for Benito LED General Reserve to reduce the utility deficit. So that one's a little trickier. That reserve fund is controlled by the LED committee. So we probably don't have the ability to say no to that. I don't know if we'd want to. I certainly, if they're willing to put reserve funds into paying off that deficit, to me that's a good thing, but what's the thoughts of the group? Is anyone interested in trying to find out if we can stop them, or shall we just let that go ahead? You good with that?
How much is left in the reserve?
Oh, was there 180 in it?
182.
Yeah, so there's still 80 grand left
Still
after that.
80.
So, it's a pretty substantial hit, but what are you gonna do? It's gotta be
Yeah,
paid.
well, they don't want you running a deficit, right? The government.
Just the only other thing to do is raise the water prices of them.
Remind me, we'll talk about that some more, because there's good news on that, maybe.
Well, wouldn't have to raise them quite as much if you used that.
The next one resolved that the LED committee agreed to authorize a sum of $50,000 to be used from the Benito Machinery Replacement Reserve if the purchase of a compacting garbage truck is authorized. So we don't necessarily have to act on that tonight, it's just authorization. But if council was to decide to buy a compacting truck so that we maximize our landfill capacity, there would be $50,000 available from their reserve for it.
Does the money actually have to go into that, a certain, like we talked about this before, if you just put it into a general?
It's in the machinery reserve now, we're authorizing the use of it.
Oh, okay.
So we're not even
I
moving
thought
it
maybe
yet.
you were looking to put some, okay,
Yeah.
I
The one
understand, I
to take it
understand,
over.
okay.
If we
Okay.
buy a compactor.
Yeah, okay, I understand.
So then after that, they had some recommendations. They spoke of vehicle maintenance, taillights, wires hanging, missing mud flaps on the vehicles being used in the LED. They were hoping that perhaps we could maintain our vehicles to a higher standard that was perhaps becoming of a municipality. They had some concerns about pets, dogs and cats on leashes, picking up waste. They were curious if we would be willing to place a notice with the water bills, because they go to most residents there, just a little piece of paper in there reminding people their responsibility to pick up after pets and such.
Definitely a good idea.
Is that something we would like to do?
Definitely, when the water bills go out, stick that in there.
No? Do we need a resolution, or can you just take our direction for that? Very good. They talked about staff time clock. They're noticing staff coming and going at all times. To be fair, the way the staffing's been working there, certainly the staff are not working only in Benito right now. So some of that coming and going is leaving Benito to go to Swan River or go to see a grader someplace. There's lots of goings on that aren't staff playing hooky, for lack of a better word, right? There's some reasons why there's staff moving in and out of the village.
Maybe we could leave that till things settle a little bit.
It's probably a good idea to leave it. But it's a recommendation, so we'll mention they mentioned it and then we'll move on.
Yeah, because if a guy doesn't go straight there in the morning and goes somewhere else instead, well, we gotta punch the clock, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
And then they also request we look at putting Wi-Fi at the skate park and campground and at the town office via the fire hall connection. So I was there for that part of the meeting and we talked about there is some old infrastructure there we think we could probably get working. We'd have to add a bit, but we pay for internet at the fire hall. Right now there's nothing at the office building, so we can't use any computers there or do anything like that, but we could probably connect it over without a monthly fee, so we just share it from one building to the other. And the same thing would then be able to be done to the campground, so that people camping at the campground could use the internet.
Isn't there Wi-Fi at the rink?
In the rink there is, but not as far as the campground. It doesn't seem to get out of the rink apparently.
Can we not extend it somehow? Like,
Could be, there was a discussion of either extending it or also offering the rink the opportunity to just be connected to the fire hall. So that instead of paying for two there, one's paid for.
yeah, yeah,
And maybe it would save the rink a little money.
yeah.
And even if we had to pay an extra $10 or $15 at the fire hall for a little better, if it saved the rink $90 a month. it would
what do
be-
you have to do to expand it?
So there's a little box, a weatherproof one for outside, would need to go on the edge of the rink closest to the campground.
Oh,
And then if the metal siding wouldn't be keeping it in anymore, it would be on the outside. So you'd have to run a wire and put the box up. I think the box is $200 or $300. It's not a huge thing.
And we're paying for it already. If
Yeah.
it can be
Yeah.
done, let's try to do
Yeah,
it.
and the monthly we pay for, it's just, you know, a
Just
little bit of
our
equipment.
initial
Yeah,
cost
it's a
could
little
be
bit
there.
more.
Okay. So we'll kind of lean on staff a little bit to work on that, and then if we need to buy some things, we'll come back and talk about that. So I have a resolution resolved that the Benito LED meeting minutes and recommendations be received, and be it further resolved that the following resolutions be approved. Installation of Village of Benito signs, grant of $100,000 to utility. Is there a mover for that? Moved by Councillor Burick, a seconder. Councillor Kushniryk, any further discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. We shall move into section 771, general checks. I have a resolution. Be it resolved that the council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. General checks number 18687 to 18712 in the amount of $79,307.41. Is there a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Blosha and a seconder. Councillor Neely. Discussion, I have the checks, and there's a couple I was going to mention, but if anyone beats me to them, feel free to shout out your questions. Together here.
Which is unit 56, 18689.
That's the one that we just
That's
purchased,
the,
the Ralph is correct, right?
okay, so that's the 5th grader. The
Oh.
772 GP.
So what do we have to get done with that?
Let's see, we have $416 of repairs, which was,
There's a lot of filters and things plugged that they were having to clean out. After it came out of Timber's.
okay, but that's
Oh,
not
there's
56,
unit.
that's
That's the
40.
other one.
Oh, okay, there's
Yeah.
unit.
Oh,
so-
sorry, yes, yes.
So most of this invoice is filters. And from speaking to Mr. Bobick earlier today, the one that was at Timrick, unit 41, I see it's been updated on here, but hasn't been updated in the Unisoft yet. 41 is the one that was at Timrick, it's out, it's grading today, but the filters were all requiring to be done, none of the filters had been done in the maintenance schedule, so every filter had to be replaced. And there was also problems with that particular unit, the radiator was plugged, and some issues there, so that's all been resolved. There's some of these filters, I believe, also went to unit 56, because some of them, there's 2 of each filter, so it's a spare for it to change when it needs it. I'm just trying to figure out exactly what the $416 of repairs were.
That's, this GST, is that, oh, that's GST, okay, unit 40, that's
Oh, okay, I have it.
check 18689.
The heck is it? It's 2 of something. It's a VP 101012, and we bought 2 of them. I don't know what it
That'll be a
is.
filter number.
It's gotta be a filter.
Yeah.
There's no way that's not a filter. Because all the other numbers are like that are filters. Its description is SHD 1200.
It's 2 different units that they repaired here.
Yeah, there's no labor here, it's just a part of some sort. is what-
1,600 on the new one, the new used one we got.
Yeah. Which is all filters. And from what I understood from them, it has all brand new filters, these are on the shelf for spares, so
Oh,
it's ready to
okay,
change.
because they're different than every other grader.
I don't even have, from what he told me today, we had no spares of any filters whatsoever
Oh,
left in
okay.
inventory.
Okay.
So this was restocking inventory, so they had a filter to go.
Okay, so it's not really repairs on the new unit,
No,
it's
it's
just in
it's
case
filters.
stuff. Yeah, okay.
18699.
$699.
All the fuel pump into the truck.
Ah, yes. So this is what we would call the garbage truck in Benito, unit 203. Fuel pump was not working. This is Northview Service Road Tester, found engine runs poorly under load, very long crank. Tested pressure was 15 psi below spec, advised fuel pump replacement. It's just over 5 hours of labor, plus a fuel pump for $991. It also involved a rear taillight that was missing. That was repaired. The right rear clearance light, left hand, sorry, both clearance lights, not taillight, both clearance lights were not Good.
So the truck is up and running.
Truck is up and running,
That's the
I-
garbage truck, so they
garbage
don't
truck.
need to get a trailer anymore?
no.
Is that a dually, that truck?
That's why they got the trailer.
Yeah, I knew why
Truck
we
was
had the
optional.
trailer, but I just wasn't sure what was up
Diesel?
with the truck.
Is it diesel? Is that truck a diesel?
From what I understand, and I don't know the inner workings of the process, other than that, the first anyone seemed to know of this problem was when it was time to go and get garbage, although it was immediately already diagnosed. And so I was a little, the timeline was curious, but whatever. And then the suggestion was that we wouldn't get garbage until Wednesday. But when I became involved in it, I was a little concerned of how we would communicate to people we weren't picking up garbage until Wednesday, because if you missed, if it was just Tuesday, many of them would leave their garbage out. But when we didn't get it Tuesday either, they'd think they'd been missed, they'd put it back in, then we'd show up Wednesday and the garbage wouldn't be there. So the alternative was to get a trailer, so we just rented a trailer for $150 and did garbage on Monday anyway, and got the truck fixed, just so it didn't gum up the schedule for everybody else.
And you can't leave garbage sitting like that.
No. I had a question that maybe Councillor Blosha or Councillor Burick will know the answer to better than I do. There's an invoice here for more barrels of chlorine
Chlorine,
for the water plant.
okay.
When do we send them back? Like the one day I drove by and we had 12 barrels sitting on the lawn. And
They came today to pick them up.
is it normal for us to wait until there's 12?
Not usually 3 or 4.
I've never actually seen that many ever sitting
Yeah,
out
because it was
there.
like,
I've
to
seen
me, I
it
thought we
like
did
that
when it was
once
4.
before.
Once,
why.
I don't remember seeing
Usually
that.
it's 3 or 4, they come and pick them up, yeah.
So maybe lean on the CAO a little bit to not let 12 accumulate in the plant, because I don't know where's any room to move in that plant if you have 12 empties sitting there and then they're sitting on the lawn. 18691, we should take a peek at that, it's for Cook Brothers. So there's two things going on here. One is hauling the low bread. This was bringing it back from where we were doing that scrubbing. So that was 3.5 hours of low bed time for Cook. They were out that way. Part of the reason it's so much time is we didn't have anyone to load the low bed for them, so they had to load it and unload it themselves, so it took a little longer. So it was with GST 735 for the move. And then there's also 6,000 yards of traffic gravel here. This is 1-inch gravel at the Big Woody Pit. So this is the beginning of our gravel for this year. This is a current year invoice that wasn't missed before. And this is starting to work on the shortfall we have for gravel. So we have 15,000 usable yards. We've got another 7,500 that's in a spot that doesn't make it advantageous to haul it because of the mileage. So 15,000 good to use yards. This is another 6,000, so that brings us up to 21,000 yards that are in the right spots. Unfortunately, we need 40,000 yards for the summer graveling program, but better than 15, now we have 21. So we're continue, Mr. Bobick has been working with Cook Brothers on a plan to get more crushed in time to apply to the roads this summer, because obviously not putting gravel on isn't really an option. So plans continue. I think he'll speak to some of them tonight, but to get to the Alpine Pit and do some crushing there to get some gravel in the far south, and then perhaps also some more crushing in the north yet. A little later on tonight, we're going to open tenders for the gravel hauling and see what we have in there. The flannel trailer here, 189, that's what we spoke of. It's a little higher than 150 because apparently we couldn't find a pin to keep the receiver in the truck, so we had to buy a new pin for it. That's part of that. There's a damage claim from Manitoba Hydro. It's not much, it's $183, but just in case you wonder what that was, it was a guy wire knocked off of a 3-phase quarter pole at Road 170 and 204, so it's correction line, and a couple miles west of 83,
That was
roughly.
from the mower, correct?
No, this was knocked off by a snowplow on December 29th.
Oh.
So it's a fairly new
so
one.
that happens.
Yeah, sometimes we do that, but at least we got the snow anyway. There's also Munisoft here, that's a yearly thing, it's for $7,100. So that's renewing all our accounting software. It shows we have it on 7 computers. And I was curious if we really do, or if that's a couple computers from Benito we're not using anymore. Seems like a lot of computers, because I don't know
Well,
if we have 7.
that was to include the laptop that was
Oh,
supposed to
okay.
be installed on.
Okay, so eventually, we've trying to get Microsoft added to the laptop so it's a little more portable, but unfortunately, as Councillor Blosha and I know, we're all locked out of our laptops yet. So we can't actually get Microsoft put on it, but we're working on that problem next. Health benefits, there's a radio here, but that's a radio, it's not the ones we just ordered, that's the one before, a handheld just being paid for. Prairie security, that's for programming codes in the door, cost $90. Sign here is Benito Fire Department. There's a repair on a heater at the Swan shop, it's 900-ish. Valley bearing, I know sometimes questions always come up on that one. So it is a substantially long list of pieces for shops to have inventory of crescent wrenches and flashlights, and there's a fuel pump in here. I think that was related to the new grader. It needed a DEF pump to put the DEF in it. So it's all this little miscellaneous stuff. The most expensive thing I see is a drill bit kit for $260. I think that is pretty much all of it. Any other questions about the checks? Anybody going once, going twice? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. We'll move to payroll checks. Council's able to see this. Unfortunately, those at home are not because of confidentiality. Be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. Payroll payments number 4473 to 4482 in the amount of $11,867.26. Is there a mover, please? Councillor Kushniryk, is there a seconder? Councillor Zbirun, you folks on council are able to see a summary of the employees and what they were paid in this pay period. If you have questions, we have to take it in camera, but is there any questions we should remember to go to in camera, or does this all look straightforward to you? I guess you could refer to it by check number too if you had a question now, as long as you don't use their name. That's all looking okay, no questions. We'll call the question on the resolution. Those in favor? Oh, sorry, are you voting?
No,
Okay.
yeah, just voting.
Okay, those in favor? That is carried. My favorite part of the meeting is always discussion. And here we are at discussion. So, let's start with 8.1. Health Facilities Foundation and the Doctor is Medical Professional Recruitment Committee. But we didn't type that all in because it was just getting unruly. So a few things to note here. And I'll get Councillor Blosha to chime in on some of this. So I'm sitting on the recruitment committee. Councillor Blosha sits on health facilities. So in theory they're separate, but they're somewhat related because health facilities has the bank account and the recruiting committee's money is in health facilities bank account. So there's been certainly some discussion going on at recruiting because the complaint that's come from the recruiting committee is that Health Facilities Foundation doesn't always follow the recommendations of the committee. So say for example the committee is going to spend $100 on this pen and they approve that at committee. They then expect Health Facilities to write the $100 check. And at times Health Facilities has said, well, we don't think you should spend $100 on a pen, so we're not writing the check. So there's been this governance question. I wanted to hear from someone that's actually at Health Facilities what happens there.
There has, like, rarely ever has there come a request from the recruitment over to the health facilities to spend money, ever.
So is it possible that's true, or is that just vaporware?
That's not true. Okay. So, anyway, the recruitment part of it, the Health Foundation, yes, holds the money. The municipalities make the decisions.
Yeah.
Not if the municipalities say, yes, we want this to go into the nurse recruitment, we want this, that's what health does with your money.
So
It's not us saying no to that.
What has been proposed, I don't know a nice way to say this, so let's be blunt. It seems like the recruitment committee's been a little loosey-goosey all these years. Like there hasn't been a lot of structure, there hasn't been a lot of doing things like we would expect a committee that's administering $1.4 million to be following. We would expect meeting minutes, we would expect resolutions, we'd expect a budget, perhaps a budget. None of that's been happening over there. So it's been kind of this shot in the dark stuff. So several of the new appointees to that committee have flagged pretty strongly that we're not happy with the way the committee's been run, because it has $1.4 million and it's been wherever. So Mountain agreed to do a little work on an agreement, so you have a proposed agreement from the arm of Mountain for a four-way partnership, basically, this is trying to capture what exists now, except it seems that there is no paperwork in any of the municipalities indicating how this committee came to exist, or any details of how it's run. So what's before you here tonight is a proposal. This is still to circulate to the committee, so we're not passing this tonight, we're just looking at it more than anything. It essentially captures how this has been working, the amount of money that's paid in every year, where the money sits, who has the authority to spend it. There's an outstanding question right now of how many people are on the committee. The town of Swan River believes that each council appoints 2. The other councils believe that each council appoints 1. So is there a will from this council of the answer as we sort this out and figure out, because they have 2 on the committee and we each all have 1. So they have 2 votes to our 1 vote, which isn't advantageous to anybody, and being fair. Do we want 2? Do we want it to be 1? You think 2? Does anybody have a problem with us all putting 2 on that committee?
I'd say 2.
They have $1.4 million.
I'm good as long as it's not me.
But,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
like you say,
That'll make 11.
that committee was just put together for recommendations. They're not actually, still has to come to the Health Foundation, but it also has to come to all of us.
Well, but it doesn't, according to the committee, which is
It
what this
does.
agreement does. Because this spells out that they can use the funds for what they're supposed to use them for, which is recruiting doctors and retaining doctors and all medical professionals. So it's not just doctors, it's doctors and nurses.
And they have to remember that some of that money is also going to the CT scanner.
Right. So,
So it's not 1 point.
no, it's a little over 800,000 right now. It's almost 900,000 when Swan Valley West pays what we owe, because we haven't paid last year's money yet. So once that's paid, they'll have basically 900,000 left after the CT scanner, which is still a lot of money.
What do they get a year then total?
They get $16 per person.
Yeah.
Per year.
10,
Which I've never heard anyone
100.
ever complain about.
160,000 a year.
Certainly at the committee meeting, there was a long discussion about proving to the municipalities that that money is going to something rather than a bank account earning interest. So I think you'll see a lot more of that shortly.
Well, and sometimes I think too, it's sitting there with that money, maybe for that year, let's not pay, and then if we need it, then we start again. Like, I always brought that up too, but the town of Swan River wants to see it keep going in.
And there's a thought process that if we all take it out of our budget lines for a year, it's hard to put it back in.
But it's not, when you know it's a good thing, but why are we building it, and not using it? Because actually there's no one to recruit right now. Like, well, there is,
We're short 4
but
right
there,
now.
yeah,
Yeah.
but try to find that is what I mean.
So to expand a little bit outside of the agreement, I brought the ledger for you as well.
Yeah, I see, and that's from 2006 on,
This
correct?
is everything.
Yeah.
Every penny that committee's ever had.
Yeah.
So it shows you all of the income that we've ever given it, all the way back to Village of Benito days, so every bit of income is there.
Yeah.
It also shows you everything that was ever spent, so all the doctors that were paid to not leave, the amounts are there. And we have that set as public, so you can go look at it on the agenda if you wanna see it at home, but we can all obviously see it tonight. What annoyed me, and I probably said some things, was that if you look on this, of the $624,000 that's been spent, less than $20,000 of it, like you could argue less than $10,000 of it, has been spent on actually recruiting people outside of just giving them a check. And I can understand if you have a medical student in the valley that's going away, they need money to be a doctor. I totally get that, I have no problem with it. But when do we actually do some recruiting? So I asked questions, so when do we go to the trade shows? Well, we never have. Well, why aren't we going to the trade shows with the medical students and talking about how great we are? Oh, well, because it costs money. And it's like, well, we have $800,000 in the bank to recruit medical professionals. Maybe we should spend some of it instead of just collecting interest on it. So I think that will be a change we'll see. Not that long ago, we had 10 medical students in the valley. And so you remember the G8 meeting, you may have seen the coffee cups I made for them. So, and I didn't have a good understanding of what was going on at the time, but we were giving them a gift package to welcome them to the valley and try and convince them it's a good place. So they received 2 pens, 1 pin, and a coffee cup as a welcome to our valley. from a committee that has $800,000 to spend on making them think this is a good place. And we couldn't do it because we asked for donations of pens from places. So we need to make some changes to how we're recruiting, because if we're gonna recruit, personally, I wish we didn't have to. I don't wanna spend a penny on this, but we're in a world where we have to do this. So let's do it right and actually recruit some people. We talked about being over at the high school. We should be there in grade 9, talking about being a doctor. Do you know if you wanna be a doctor, we'll give you $75,000 to go to school. Because grade 9 is the time that we start to convince people from the valley they wanna be a doctor. Not when they're already in med school. Let's talk to them early on. Let's make sure they know they can do these things and we're here to help them. We talked a lot about retention. Dr. Burnside came to talk about it, and he points out that we really haven't done much for retention. We've done a lot of recruiting, but retaining people here is far cheaper than finding someone new to come here. And he said, and I believe it fully, that writing a check for retention is pretty dumb. Doctors usually have some cash kicking around. So even if you give them $50,000 as a thank you gift, what does it really do for them? You know, they're losing half of its taxes. Our discussion went along the lines of promoting the valley, doing things. So he was saying, what if we did a membership at the golf course? Or what if we did a pool pass? And so I'll tell you the whole story so you get some picture of the struggles the committee's having. So it was pretty soon developed a list of 12 things that we could do. And the thought was, well, what we'll do is we'll make a menu of the 12 things, and we'll give each doctor this thing, and we'll tell them they're allowed to pick one thing off of it. And that one thing they can have. And I said, are we listening to ourselves? This is stupid. We have $800,000 in the bank, and we're gonna tell the doctors, you can pick one thing, but only one, because, you know. And then the very next thing out of the mouth of the committee was, well, once we know what they want, we'll go and ask for donations. And we'll see if the golf course will give us a membership. We'll see if Thunderhill will give a lift pass. And I said, we have $800,000 in the bank to do this. Why would we go to our community groups that are wanting for money and desperately needing our support and ask them to give us a free pass to Thunderhill Ski Club instead of giving them $30 for the pass and moving on? So eventually what was decided was that the Chamber of Commerce has a Chamber Bucks program. So the Chamber is going to expand that program to vouchers for things. For example, golf course, ski hill, pool. The vouchers will be redeemable like the Chamber Bucks. And the reason they're doing that instead of just buying, say, 100 ski passes is we know they won't all get used. So rather than wasting a bunch of money on that, have a voucher package so each doctor and nurse would receive the 12 different vouchers. If they use 3 of them, the committee would pay for the 3 that was used. If 9 of them got thrown away, there's no loss. You know, we're not out of money. And expanding on that, going to all of these different shows with the med students, and specifically targeting U of M med students to get them early and give every single med student the same package. Because 95% of them will never come to the valley. It'll cost us nothing. But the 5% that do come to the valley, if they come and check out all the things we have, that will do far more for recruitment than giving them $30,000. We want them falling in love with the valley and thinking this is a place I want to spend time. So that's where the committee is going to go, is more of the actual marketing, telling people how nice it is here, getting them to try our adventures, and have them want to be here rather than just saying we have money. Part of the reason for that is there are other places offering $350,000 for you to come there as a doctor. So if we want to get into a war over checkbooks, we better up the taxes some more. So if we're going to start paying $350,000 for a doctor to come, we're pricing ourselves in the market. We better compete on something we have, which is an amazing valley, instead of on how big our bank account is. Because we'll never win if we just keep paying and paying and paying. So, we will no doubt hear from the recruitment committee in a few weeks on that proposed agreement. Once it's finalized, they make sure they have all the bugs worked out, and then they're going to be looking for all 4 councils to pass it, so the committee has clear operating parameters and how it works. There's language in there for things the committee shouldn't do, and if the committee wants to do something, for example, the CT scanner, they wouldn't have authority to do that. They would have to come back to councils for it. Which I think captures most of the concerns I've ever heard about it. So they can't just spend willy-nilly, but they can spend on the things they're supposed to. Any questions or comments
It's
on
the
that?
same people.
Almost all the same people.
I'm not saying that, but it's just the same, it's all the municipalities, it's the same people, so should be able to look after it.
Yeah. Anything else on 8.1? Okay, so we're moving to 8.2, the Durban landfill paint issue. I was hoping to have Mr. White here to explain some things about the paint to us, specifically why it's on a trailer, but he isn't here tonight, so we'll ask him that question later and get back to us on that. This is a quote from GFL Environmental, I suppose, for resolving the paint issue. So some background here, the Durban landfill accepted paint. My understanding of the rules are that if we take the paint and fairly quickly after we call someone to pick it up, while its labels are attached and the cans are not rusty, there's very little cost to us to it because of the paint recovery fees that are paid when you buy paint, and there's programs that take it, and that all kind of happens. But unfortunately, if the labels come off and the cans are rusty, that is no longer an option. And so you then have to pay an environmental company to take it away, if you want it taken away. And the answer is $24,174.61 for the paint that was collected and is rusty and has no labels. It works out to about $60 per 20-liter pail. Not all of the paint is in 20-liter pails, about half of it is, half of it's in smaller things, but this is an approximate value. So there's some options, because I'm not particularly thrilled at the idea of paying $25,000 to get rid of the paint. Paint is hazardous when it's liquid. Once paint is solid, it's no longer hazardous and could be disposed of in our landfill. So there's a product you can buy that you put in the paint that solidifies it. We'll look into how much that would cost to simply put some of that in each pail and make the pails hard and then landfill them. We'll also look into some other options for hardening the paint. There was wood chips were suggested. Specifically, we're talking green team in the summer. Take some wood chips, make an area of wood chips with plastic under it, pour a few cans out, let it sit in the sun, pour a couple the next few days, and solidify the paint, and then throw the paint in the landfill. Last case scenario will be this $25,000. Even if we had to do this, that is for full pails, and those pails are not full. So, absolute, if nothing else worked, I would suggest we would have green team combine the paint into pails, so we had fewer full pails. And then if we had to pay the $60 a pail, we would do that, but we would hope to avoid that at all. But certainly, rather than paying them to recycle 300 half-full pails, we could pay them to recycle 150 full pails for the same price.
Yeah.
So there's some options, we'll dig into it. We can't do much now until it thaws, obviously, because the paint is all frozen, but I guess that doesn't
That's
count
hardened.
as solid.
That's not solid enough.
Not solid
Look at
enough.
dump it, no, solid.
Solid.
How long did we collect the paint for?
It's been collected
Years.
forever.
Like, do we have a plan to not do this again?
We can't collect the paint anymore.
Like,
We
there's
can't.
nothing.
There's no paint to collect.
Nobody's.
They will not
piling
let you put paint to the landfill. They're not
So this
supposed
is
to.
all a dirt.
This is all a
It
different.
was,
It was.
They still say it's
collected
Swan.
there either, but it was.
They take empty.
Yeah, you can, like, under the
it
new
wasn't
collection
for the last
programs.
while. It's just been sitting there forever.
Under the new collection programs, you can accept paint from the landfill if you're signed up and you're storing it properly and you're keeping the labels on it, you're doing all the things that didn't happen with this paint.
It's
So this
just
paint is an
easier.
orphan.
It's easier not to
Yeah,
accept.
much easier.
The same with the aerosol cans, you gotta take them to that little container they got there.
Anything else on the Durban paints? If you have a fence at home that needs paint, I can't guarantee the color, but we have some for you. Planning District 8.3. So this, we discussed a little bit at G8. We have an answer for the group tonight. We don't have a resolution for it yet. There's some information. So the planning document itself, the Planning Act, bylaw, whatever it's called here, is currently out of date. It's supposed to be revised every 5 years. It hasn't been revised for 20 years, which is causing some substantial problems for Mountain. It doesn't affect the other municipalities as much because of some particularities in how planning is done with different bylaws, but certainly for Mountain it's an issue. So they had offered to pay a quarter of the portion of the cost of it. Normally this would be allocated by assessment. So obviously we would pay the most, Swan River would pay the second most, and then the other two municipalities would pay a bit. Mountain has suggested a simple four-way split. So obviously the town of Swan River and Swan Valley West are agreeable to that because it's cheaper for us. The question was, what did Minnetonka's feel? Because we couldn't very well not do that, something different without approval of everybody. So I can report Minnetonka's council did meet. Their discussion at their table went along the lines of thinking that the Planning Act is good for the entire valley, and if it was important enough to Mountain to be willing to pay a quarter, it was important enough to them. So they have agreed to a four-way split, so we'll each pay a quarter of the cost. It's not invoiced yet or done because there's a grant out for half of the cost. If the grant comes through, it will proceed. If the grant doesn't come through, planning district has to go to plan 2, which they don't exactly have made yet. So we're waiting to see what happens with the grant. I did bring for you tonight that mounted resolution is there. I brought you a very hard to read expense sheet that shows everything planning spent in the last year in case that's something you're interested in. Probably most important, I brought the 2023 budget that was approved by planning district that provides for our share this year, not including the development plan costs, to be just a touch under $7,000, which is about $500 more than it was last year. An interesting discussion at planning district was there's a bank account balance of about $24,000, and at current, no one at planning district exactly remembers why there is, because it was in theory a zero-sum thing. We don't show any reserves on the books, so the bank account should be empty, but it's not. So we're looking into that. The thought is that there probably is a reserve account that's been lost over time. So once that's found, we'll properly state on these books what the reserve is. And it looks like the reserve account is probably around $23,000 right now. But we're gonna sort that out at planning and get our ducks in a row so it's easier to read the financial statements there. Questions on planning district at all? 8.4 past due invoices. This is a document only council can see again. And I suspect we're about to move this in camera, but we'll start here. We've presented to council tonight a bunch of invoices that were issued in the past. Some of them are substantive invoices. We've talked about this a minute in camera once before. There's an $18,000 invoice. There's another invoice for 10. There's a $350, a $300. There's some invoices here for services rendered to pets on behalf of the pet owner. We need to discuss what we're doing, if we're chasing these down or not. Does anyone have a problem with moving this to in camera? Because the particulars I think will matter on these. Okay, so I'm going to pull that down here and we'll figure out how to get that in camera here shortly. And we'll pick it up again there. I don't know where I put it, but it's not there anymore. It's off the agenda on that part, but we'll find it back. So we'll go to 8.4 again, but 8.4 on the agenda has changed numbers because whatever I did I shouldn't have done. Thunder Hill Parkland Tourism. So tonight, each of you has a copy of this book. This is the 2022 Parkland Tourism Guide that was printed last year. We have a rep on the Parkland Tourism Committee, you might guess who, because of my love of tourism. And for better or for worse, I'm also the chairperson of Parkland Tourism these days. So a committee near and dear to my heart. There is a proposal out, so this particular book is 40 pages. And in years past, Swan Valley West has bought a quarter-page ad in it. You can find it near the end of the book. There's a reproduction of it here in the system, so you can see a little picture of what it looks like. And that ad last year was about $695 plus GST.
That's at a half-page ad.
Oh, sorry, half page. Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't a half page, it was
It's
a
a
quarter
quarter
page
page.
and it
So
wasn't,
I think the amount
wasn't
is
quite
right,
that
but the
much.
size is wrong.
yeah.
Because I looked up the amount specifically to the ad. so
Okay, yeah.
It's a $695
It was
for a
not a
quarter
half-page ad.
Yeah,
but
because a full page
This
is
quarter.
20 something. So yeah, that's, the $695 is right, just ignore the half part, it's a quarter. So Thunder Hill, as we know, has a brand new feature that's about to open. So the discussion has gone along that Swan Valley West has certainly flowed through a lot of money, but we haven't done a lot directly for it. So there's an opportunity that is coming to council tonight to look at. 4 pages in the book, and I don't know where they'd be, but I think it'd be fairly near the front from what I understood. They'd probably be like, sorry, at page 5 or so. To put 4 pages that would be specific to Thunder Hill, maybe the museum. It could be 4 of Thunder Hill or 3 of Thunder Hill and 1 of the museum. Essentially, it would be buying the actual full pages of the book, so we had full control of the content of those 4 pages. So it wouldn't be shared with any other attractions, it would simply be about Thunder Hill. The cost would normally be insane, because the full page advertising, if you buy it as advertising, is $23.50 a page. But because we're fairly connected to Parkland Tourism, we have the opportunity to do it at just the page rate, so the actual cost of the paper, putting it in the book extra, which would be $2,800 to put 4 pages in. So it would give us, I would suggest it would be a one-time shot for the Thunderhill Ski Club to show the new chalet, show the upgraded runs, show also the bike trails, perhaps touch on the snowmobile aspect of it. There would possibly be room for Magnet Hill in there. And then if there was room left, spend a page on the museum. If there wasn't, just spend it all on Thunder Hill and sort of have it. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a keepsake book, but certainly it would be a big push for the new attraction. This particular book goes to all Travel Manitoba locations, and it goes to almost every attraction in the Parkland area. 7,500 are printed each year, so it goes fairly far and wide. It works out to about 37 cents a copy to put it in there, which is actually about the same as it would cost to photocopy the color pages, except it gets some places. And there is not a Swan Valley tourism book this year. If there was, you'd be hearing this pitch to put it in the Swan Valley book, but there's no Swan Valley book being printed. Parkland is the only one printing a book this year. So it would certainly give a good promotion. Thoughts on that from anybody? What do you think of the idea?
We can get 4 pages for the price of a quarter page.
I like the idea too. Let's give them the boost they need at the start and see how it goes.
And I have a meeting scheduled for Thursday to talk about the coupons for doctor recruitment, obviously, but also this, and getting some pictures and doing stuff we need to do. They certainly have plans there for some more things, right? Like the campsites, lots, like they're really going places. It would be nice if we give them that boost.
Yeah, I think so too.
Would you think it would be good to somehow promote Benito in that, or you wouldn't? Not, that's not the place for it.
That's not the place for it.
I don't know if we have anything, like, Benito's a great place, but
Gateway to the valley.
when we have something brand new in Benito, absolutely. Like if we had just built a disc golf course, I could see doing a page or 2 on the disc golf, but we don't necessarily have anything, a brand new attraction there yet. Hopefully we do soon. That was kind of my think, was that this is, you know, a one-time thing to really push it being brand new, get it out there and get people coming. Any other thoughts, or anybody else that hasn't?
Well, they got a big investment there. Do our part as a community to promote it, I guess. Support it, promote it, do whatever. I'm in agreement.
Okay, well, I should type this. To promote. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West approves the proposal from Parkland Tourism to promote the Thunderhill Recreation Area. Shall I say as attached? And we'll attach that proposal to it with the details. Is there a mover? Councillor Blosha, seconded by Councillor Neely. Any further discussion on that? If not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Let us move to 8.5, Swan Valley Fire Commission.
It says 8.6 on ours.
6.
Yeah,
You moved the ones
yeah,
you
I
moved
moved
them all
and
up.
I wrecked my everything.
Just says, it's fine, it just says
Yeah.
8.6 on ours.
It'll, at some point, it's gonna switch to 8.5,
Oh.
when you least expect it. I tried to move the one to in camera,
It's
and I
fine.
messed up everything. didn't
It's
I?
fine, I
I
just,
moved that down to 9, I
Was
think.
that what it is?
Yeah, I think it's 9 now.
In the break, we're gonna figure this out. So this is, last time we did this as an open document, everyone could see, because it was a document we made and controlled. This particular document came back to us from the town of Swanniver, so we didn't make this a public document because we didn't have the permission to do that, which is why people at home can't see it tonight, but council can. So this is proposed changes. There isn't a lot of changes in here. This is a marked up document, so you can see anything that red is removed. If it strikes through, you can see the colors of things that have been added. Most of it's just rearranging what was proposed originally. There's no changes here to the effective control of 50/50 or to the capital or such. There's a couple questions of how to do 1 or 2 little details. It certainly isn't in a ready to do anything with format at this point. I spoke to Deputy Mayor
Morio.
Borio, thank you. It's so hard when you start with the title and can't remember the last name, about this. And I suggested that, originally the town had been fairly interested in moving ahead on it because they wanted to have it done so they could order a new fire truck. They have ordered the new fire truck. The agreement now captures that even though the fire truck order happened before the agreement was done, it's still part of the agreement. So that's all going through fine. He suggested that later this week he would have some time to sit down with me and we could hammer through these questions they have typed on the side and sort of come to a consensus on what we felt both councils would like, and then bring a more complete document to council. So you'll be seeing that shortly. You might be seeing it next week, because next week is union negotiations, so we're intending 2 special meetings next week. So if there's a document by then, it might be on the agenda just so you can see it ahead of time. I don't know if we pass it at the special meeting, but it might just appear so you have some time to review it. 8-6 gravel hauling tenders. So we thought, for the fun of it, we'd open tenders on camera tonight. But it won't take long. There's this one envelope. And this came at 3:59 today. So we were 1 minute away from not having a tender.
That's a hauling tender?
This is the hauling tender. So we do have a bid.
It's local anyways.
It's local, so we have a bid from Cook Brothers. And certainly this bid doesn't, like, we had a bid form that you would basically bid a price for, the per mile price and stuff. This does not do that. Cook Brothers will do bid hourly rates for 2023 gravel season as per the following rates. Tandem axle belly dumps, $135 per hour. Tri-axle belly dumps, $152 per hour. Look forward to working with you, Blair Cook.
Say that rates here.
So the tandem axle belly dumps, $135 per hour. Tri-axle belly dumps, $152 per hour. And that is the only tender received tonight for that.
What happened? Weren't there other who did it last year?
They did not be interested in bidding. We did have Mr. Bobick call all the usual suspects in the last 2 days to indicate, gee, we haven't seen any responses yet. What's your plan? And all of them indicated they were not interested in bidding on our tender package. The primary concern reported by all of them was variable fuel rates. They were not interested in bidding based on our specifications because of the risk to them on fuel price changes. So we do not have an agenda prepared tonight, obviously, because we only had one. We're going to think about this. I think Mr. Bobick may wish to talk to us about it. We don't have to hurry, obviously, because it's not like any of these expire anytime soon. There's just rates there, so we'll have to figure out what to do with that. Any other questions on that before we move on? Go to 8.8 for some of you, 8.7 for some of you, tenant safety bylaw. I had an opportunity to meet with Mayor Jacobson and CAO Poole the other day. We talked about a variety of topics, but one that came up was this tenant safety bylaw. The town is, for lack of better terminology, looking at how to prevent houses that have a bunch of people living in them and are unsafe for the tenants. So there are fairly new rules out in the province on how you can enforce and fine people and do administrative monetary penalties. And they provide that neighboring municipalities can have joint bylaws and do joint enforcement. So we went down the path a little bit of perhaps thinking that Swan Valley West and the town might have a joint bylaw on this, so that if the problem is pushed out of Swan River, it's not immediately pushed into Swan Valley West, which could happen. The proposed bylaw, and just rough points of it, would provide that anyone having rental houses would register where the rental house is and who the contact person is, so it's easy to find the person in charge. And then there'd be a list of things: smoke detectors, windows would have to be working for egress, doors would have to be working, carbon monoxide detector in the house someplace. A fairly simple list of safety things that would be enforced. It would be a complaint-driven process, so if a complaint was received about a particular house, they would be given 24 hours notice for inspection. If they did not appear for the inspection, they would be fined $1,000. They would be given notice for the next day, and that fine would continue per day at $1,000 a day until they allowed inspection. If they were inspected and it passed fine, they would be thanked for their time and for being a great landlord and for the safety of their community, and they would be exempt from Zbirun's inspection for a period of time, 60 days perhaps. That's up in the air. If, however, they failed the inspection, they would be fined $1,000 for failing. They would be inspected again the next day. They'd be fined each successive day until they corrected the infraction. The fines would be issued as administrative monetary penalties, which are different than traditional fines under the municipal rules now. They provide that after 75 days, they can be collected rather than going to taxes and you're waiting for a tax sale process. And they can be collected by seizing the house, but that's no longer required. You can instead seize the landlord's bank account. So you would be able to levy the fines directly onto the bank account of the landlord, and the idea there is make it so that unsafe landlords don't make money on houses that shouldn't have people in them. If you're a good landlord and your house is in good shape, make as much money as you want. But if you're a poor landlord that puts people at risk, you're not going to simply have a lot of money after. The town of Swan Valley West would simply take it away from you until you fix up your house. So there'd be no financial incentive to have houses that are perhaps of a lower quality. So, obviously nothing to even see yet, it's being written, but that's the thought process, and also the process of why we're both talking about it too. My biggest fear is if the town does it and we don't, we end up with some houses very close to the town that suddenly become the next problem houses. So it'd be nice to have uniform rules. Questions or comments on that?
So what happens to these tenants?
The thought process was, like, we seized the house, you'd have them evicted, and we don't really want that. We want
No,
people
I
to
mean,
have
you
a
don't
place
wanna
to
be
live.
the ones that kick them out, be homeless, right?
Which is why rather than taking the house, you go after the bank account. Make it so you're taking money, but they can keep living there. And you
Okay.
can keep getting, and certainly I think we've all heard the stories of a house with 20 people living in it, and each person contributing $500 a month, and the landlord getting $10,000 a month for one house. And I don't know how true it is, it's the stories around town. This would provide an avenue to take the $10,000 away from the landlord until they made that
As long
house
as they're not
safe.
kicking somebody on the street in the
No,
middle of
and I think-
winter time and that they have no place to stay and.
And technically, you're not even allowed to evict in winter. So I don't think there's any indication that the goal is to ever kick somebody out, is to make sure they're safe in the house. And if 20 people can safely be in the house, then let there be 20 people safely in a house. If they can't safely be there, it needs to be fixed. We'll go to 10.1 if everybody's ready for that. CT scanner concerns, this is a letter dated
February.
about 2 weeks ago, February 15th, to the Honorable Heather Stephenson. This is from Mayor Lance Jacobson, the town, so this is for information tonight. Essentially, the letter is suggesting it would be very disappointing to our various councils and community to hear there's been no progress made towards the goal, which unfortunately we understand there has been no progress made towards the goal. I have been told from sources inside healthcare that the project is assigned a bank account, it's assigned a project number, it does have a project manager assigned with shared health. So all the things are there that would normally see it happen, but for some reason it hasn't been happening. I also understand that the Deputy Minister of Health was meeting last week with the head of shared health to demand answers for why the project had not proceeded. So that meeting, I haven't heard the results of it, but it was happening. And what I've been told from the province and told from everyone I've spoken to is that it is their intention to have this far enough built that if it isn't done by the election, it can't be undone by the election. So the project will occur before the fall election. So we do see a CT scanner, even if there's a change in government and perhaps a change in view of priorities.
And we wrote a letter similar to this, did it go out as well?
I have to check
Because we
with Don
passed
yet,
the
but we passed
resolution
the
to do
resolution
it.
to this. Yeah.
Did the letter come from Livingston?
I'm not sure, and then there, and
Yeah,
then Livingston
Livingston.
was
I was
supporting
talking
us.
to Councillor from
Yeah.
Livingston and they were gonna send a letter.
So-
And I was actually supposed to talk to from St. Philip's too,
But,
but never got to St. Philip's yet.
yeah, that's, the more pressure, the better.
Yeah.
Get it done. The money's sitting there. Yeah, we have money in the bank, they have money, we just need to do it.
Yeah.
10.2, good news, I guess, if you can call it disaster good news. We received a partial payment of the disaster financial assistance grant. So this particular payment is for $53,977.82. It represents the spring flood of 2022, and that's not entirely accurate. It also includes the Father's Day event at Benito, and probably a lot of that money has to do with that. Now we're still sorting through administratively. There's about 125 flood sites. So we're just working through which ones were completed and have been paid out and which ones needed a little work done yet this spring to get paid. It's our suspicion there's probably some additional funds to flow yet once those additional sites are done. But that obviously is not a huge priority right now because it's winter time. But come spring, we'll finish that off and get it done. And from having some discussion with councillors that have been here longer than some of us, there was some discussion recently about council having failed to proceed on a grant for $250,000. So the understanding is that that was in reference to this disaster assistance claim. And so certainly council is proceeding on it. We did not drop the ball. We did not miss any deadlines. We're proceeding as per normal. And there has been no waste of a $250,000 grant. Our understanding is that's well in hand and things are proceeding as they should. It certainly is not $250,000 worth of floodplain, but that is the question that came up and was talked about by some folks. That's what it's about. Any questions on that? We'll go to 11.1, sale of maps. This is on unfinished business because we asked this to come back last time. Whereas the Municipality of Swan Valley West purchases municipal maps for resale to the general public, and whereas the cost of these maps has increased significantly, therefore be it resolved that the resale price of these maps be set at $34 to cover the cost of the increase. Is there a mover, please? Councillor Blosha and someone to second the resolution. Councillor McGregor, each to it. Any discussion on this? I did review the invoice, $34 is the right amount.
That's for any of the maps?
It doesn't matter the size, they're all the same price. Any further discussion? Not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 11.2. Last time council discussed the grader operator positions, staff was authorized to make an offer in order of preference to some various different folks we wanted to see in that position. An offer was made and has been accepted. We're bringing a resolution tonight to finalize that. Council had given its blessing for them to start work before this was passed just because we needed a grader on the road. Whereas council has received applications for the position of grader operator, and whereas council has given consideration to all the applications received, therefore be resolved the Municipality of Swan Valley West hire Scott Stenberg to fill the vacant position of grader operator. Is there a mover, please? Councillor Neely, someone to second the resolution. Councillor Blosha, any discussion on the resolution? I could add that Mr. Stenberg has a couple days under his belt now already, and certainly lots of positive reviews from the other staff. They think he's going to be a good learner and figure out the snow thing fairly soon. And I think given the amount of wind we had yesterday, the sooner we figure it out, the better.
You can run it darn near anything, huh?
Yes. Yeah, he should be very good. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Committee reports. Let's start with Mr. Kushniryk tonight. We'll go around the opposite direction than last time.
God, I don't have much. I think I only have the LED committee. Basically, we've gone over it. We went over the reports earlier, so it was pretty straightforward.
Councillor Bosch?
I have no committee reports, just
Okay, you.
two. No, February's a short month, it's
It is.
not.
Deputy Reeve Burick.
I attended the planning district meeting, and Reeve Gade as well attended, and my feeling from that meeting was very positive. Everybody wants to work together, and there's a great cooperation between everybody, and it showed in the funding of the planning district that everybody was okay with, and it was very positive.
Anything else? Councillor Zbirun.
Just February the 8th at the fire meeting we had with some of you and everybody else.
That was before the last meting. wasn't it?
He wasn't here.
Byron
last
wasn't-
time.
Byron wasn't at the
I
last.
wasn't here.
Yes.
That's why I said the date.
That's what's working there, James.
Other than that, no, I wasn't.
I haven't had anything for 2 weeks. Just
Get you guys set some more meetings.
just Valentine's Day.
It was
Yeah. We're here on Valentine's Day.
You gotta rub it in, yeah.
most of us spent the evening together for Valentine's.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
quite romantic. Councillor Zbirun missed out on it.
I don't think Brian even got home before midnight.
Absolutely, I think it was about 10 after 1. I just want to add one more thing, or one more question. It's not a report, but communication. I brought forward both those lights, remember, 49, 83 and 49, and number 10 and 27D9. Did anything come forth with that or no?
I'm sorry, to be quite honest, it's got lost in the shuffle.
we will put it back.
Okay, and there's one more light I'd like to attend to it well, is Pioneer turnoff.
Okay?
It's a busy intersection there and it's black at night. But those three,
And our plan on that is we're going to send a letter
Yeah.
to infrastructure,
yeah,
telling them we would like lights there, and
Yeah.
then see what the response is.
yes.
Just a red flashing light, that's,
The Pioneer one should
or
be.
you're talking about a light standard.
7 o'clock in the morning it is. and
7
it's
o'clock in the
dark.
morning,
It's
yeah, but
dark
not
all
at
winter.
night.
No, all winter
Shouldn't
it
be
is.
hauling at night.
Repeat the locations.
Pardon me, 3 locations?
Yes.
Okay, 49 and 83,
By the gateway,
yeah. A light, and,
Bozeman Corner, 279 and
yeah,
Highway 10.
279 and 10,
Okay.
and number 10 at
218.
218, yeah.
Thank you.
You good?
I think that was it.
So I'm gonna, sorry, I'm gonna refer to my phone. It's just so much easier to keep track of what is going on some days when we do it this way. So I attended planning district, as Deputy Burick indicated. Anything of interest, we talked about mostly, one thing was we did extend the contract for the development officer. And there was a lengthy discussion by the board about what kind of increase to look at because of inflation and such. So the agreed upon increase was 5%, which might be of interest because we're working on going into negotiations here as well. So that's what a different place looked at. I spent some time last week on the LUD utility. As you remember, we've discussed here several times. Public Utilities Board was waiting for a response from us on what we wanted to do. So I recreated the water rate study, all the spreadsheets for it, all the calculations for it, so we could put different numbers in and see rather than hiring a consultant again for another $10,000. So it took a few hours to do, but it was still way cheaper than $10,000. So we projected what had been applied for with all of the numbers as they were. Then we projected if we took out 2021, which kind of the strange year where things were weird in the numbers, and went back to like 2020 and forecast based on that, where we would be with the rates that are currently in effect. And the answer is in 5 years we would have a $500,000 surplus in the utility, which is beyond what you should have, obviously. It's supposed to be about a 20% working capital. So then I worked on numbers for a while to see what would be something that would get us profitable, pay off the deficit, but not be zero increase, but not be the increase that's currently in effect. 20% is a number that works fairly well. It provides for modest profit each year to pay off the deficit and also put money into reserves each year. So we would again be building reserves, so when we have to do pipe replacement or anything like that, we have money there again. As less than we had. So I've sent a letter to the board with all of the spreadsheets attached, indicating the various projections we have, and asked for a variance to the interim order to take us from what we are now to 20% above the old rates. So there would be an immediate increase, but not as much. To be clear, those 3 months are being billed at those new rates. January, February, March, there's no question those are being billed at the higher rates, so there'll be some people concerned and no doubt contacting many of you to complain about that. But it's what we have to do legally. So that's in the projections as well, plus this 100,000 in the LUD. So I've asked them to approve that on an interim basis. And then I've noted to them that we're being audited by the Auditor General and that we don't have the 21 or 22 financials audited yet. So the commitment was that when we had those audited numbers back, so we knew exactly what was being spent and they were set in stone, we would then finalize those projections, see if the 20% was enough, perhaps apply to change that either up or down to match where it should be, and finish it off. So it'll come back here once we know the answer to change in the interim rates, and then it'll come back here again for those final rates, whatever we want to apply for as a permanent order.
You use 20% increase from 2020 year.
From the current rates that were in effect, say in July of this last year, what the rates had been there for many years.
Oh, yeah,
So
okay, so it'd be
20% more
similar
than
to
that.
2020
Yeah.
rates then anyways, right?
Pretty much, yeah. So 20% up from that, which is enough to stop it losing money and see it start. It puts 10,000 in reserves each year, and it leaves, I have to look at numbers, I think it's $8,000 or $9,000 extra for unforeseen things that would end up in reserves if it wasn't spent
Yeah.
otherwise. So it could be as much as $20,000 going to reserves every year, which would start to get us back to, And I don't know, we'll have to discuss what we think healthy reserves would be, but certainly it'd be nice to have a couple $100,000 in reserves there for when we have to start replacing anything big.
Is there anything in there now?
Until we
Or
are
reserves, or
done,
we don't know?
until we're done the audit, we don't know. It appears like on paper there is, it certainly doesn't appear that those exist anywhere other than on paper. But that's a somewhat unknown answer right now.
That's something that you gotta really keep the reserves up because it's so expensive to repair.
And the one year they were drawn down by $100,000. We know that. But then we see years where it looks like money was put back into them, but there doesn't seem to necessarily, even though it says that here, there's no corresponding numbers there that really make you think that money is there. I'd like to think it is, but I'm just not sure it is.
I'm just
we
wondering
need to
if
start
even,
moving it up.
if even $20,000 a year
Well,
in reserves is enough, you know, like
Yeah.
10 years is only $200,000. You can't put a lift station in for that, you know.
So we'll have to look at it some more yet, but it takes us away from the 400% that we're sitting at right now, which is,
Well, those people that are paying the high rates now are putting money in to pay off the deficit.
yeah. I spoke with the mayor and the CAO. I dropped by the LED meeting for a bit. I spent some time reviewing the insurance policy. So we've been unable to locate last year's insurance documents. They are unfortunately the batch of documents that can't be found. So the question has come up repeatedly, what are we paying for insurance on each thing? The new policy will be here shortly. We've gone through the coverage, we've removed some equipment that was there that wasn't actually here anymore. We're asking some questions about fire trucks yet. I don't know if we have the answer, but I'll check in with the CAO later. Our insurance policy right now has 2 fire trucks on it, not 5 fire trucks. So why doesn't it have 5? And that's the interesting question. The belief is that 2 of them may be double insured. They may have been added to the one policy, but also on an MPI policy. So we're going to sort that out and make sure we're not paying twice for the fire trucks. And if they're supposed to be on the municipal policy, then all 5 of them should be there, not just 2 of them. So we're sorting that out. There was a little bit of tractor drama, a little bit of grader drama, just in units that had changed and hadn't necessarily been updated on the policy. So that's all been sorted out. So only the equipment we have is actually on the policy anymore. We're adding the new chalet at Thunder Hill. They pay for that, but it has to go on our policy. All those changes were sent in, I think. I'm hoping the fire truck thing, yeah, it's been sent in and dealt with. I just don't know the answer yet. They will now provide us the actual insurance documents that show clearly what each thing is costing for insurance, so we can make sure we're charging the rink account or the museum or the ski club the right amounts. And then of course we pay for some ourselves for our own things. Yes?
I ask you one more since we're in the insurance part.
Sure.
Have you heard anything about the Kenville Hall?
I have not heard the review from the engineer at the most recent time,
Okay.
so I don't have an update for that.
That's gonna be costly, eh?
Very costly.
Byron missed,
Yeah,
Byron
so-
missed the last meeting, so maybe could you update
Yeah,
him
so
on
let's,
that?
I'll just run through it quick. Right now, where the hall board is at is waiting for the engineer to determine if it was snow load damage. If it was and there's insurance coverage, it will either be repaired or the insurance company will make a cash offer for the hall, which would see it torn down and a cash settlement. If it's not insurance, and there's a possibility of that, I believe it's snow, everybody believes it's snow, but if the engineer doesn't find that, there does not appear to be appetite on the hall board to repair it. And the only outstanding question then would be if they were tearing down the hall or if they were giving us the keys and wishing us well. Which is not great news, obviously,
No.
but that's where they're at right now. So we're certainly hoping the engineer finds what we all believe to be true, is that it was a snow issue and there's covered under insurance.
Well, it seems sort of funny because last year there was a pile of snow.
Sure was.
It had to cave in last year.
How many functions did you say here? Wasn't very many. How many? 6?
I believe it was 12 the year before COVID, so it's not particularly well used. They're $65 a function. So certainly they've had to fundraise to pay the hydro bill and they're having trouble. It's just, I prefer to see a hall in Kenville, but with that kind of usage numbers, how can you put it, the discussion is $250,000 repair. You can't justify that for
Yeah.
12 times a year at $65. I spent a little time at the Benito office. We got the fax machine working there. There had been some concerns about the staff having access to a fax machine without going to the fire hall. So the fax machine works again, they can fax the documents they need to fax, that's all good. That same evening I went to the fax machine, as it turns out the pagers had stopped working for the fire department. And so there had been some concern about why, they cleaned the office and then the pagers didn't work. And so you kind of assume the cleaning the office led to the pager thing, because it turns out it didn't. It was just really bad timing. So I spent a little time over there working on the pager system for them, and it turns out it was actually MTS had a failure outside of the fire hall that cut the pagers off. So MTS repaired it the next morning for us, and the pagers are again working. So they were without service for a day or two on the VHF pagers, but the phone app was still working. So had there been a call, they would have all received it on their phones if they were in a service area. The VHF pagers make sure they hear it when they're in the Benito area where there isn't great cell service. So that's fixed. I was at Settlement Services. That I believe was before our last meeting, so that's caught me up there. Today we had, as many of you saw, a team of accountants here, making sure we have a T4 filing deadline, which is tonight at midnight. I can report, just as the meeting was going on, they confirmed the T4s have now been filed. The reason this has become drama is the paymate program we're using. So while we got access to it and all was good, we've been noticing for the last few pay periods, if we print out the paychecks, they're right. But then if we do a report of them, the numbers are not right. They don't add up. If you manually add up what's on the pay stubs, they don't add up to what the program says. And so paymates looked into it a little bit, the accountants looked into it more today, and it's coming around to employees were added in 2 different places, and we broke the rules of paymate perhaps. So for example, if an employee worked for us as a municipality but was also a volunteer firefighter, the program went kind of crazy, because you should give them a second name, so it would be employee and then employee B, but we were calling them the same thing, and so it was getting particularly confused, and that's caused some issues. So that's being sorted through. I don't know how much of it they resolved tonight, but the T4s are done and hopefully accurate. It's likely the source of the T4 problem we've heard about that affects the last 6 years of our T4 filings. That the T4s as filed by the municipality did not reflect what we actually paid the staff. And we've, in some cases, amended T4s 3 and 4 times now. We're probably going to amend them again yet because of the long-standing issues there, just how it was set up and just the weirdness. And it seems to be an issue with the firefighters more than anything, but we've had payment working on it. We now have an accounting firm working on it. It will be solved. It's just a question of, it may be solved now, but we'll finish sorting that out. It's also led to troubles with ROEs. I know some of you may have heard from some of the former staff, ROE issuance was tardy. Paymate, you should click the button, the ROE should come out. You click the button, the wrong thing would come out. So that's caused problems with one of our former employees that was unable to obtain EI even though they should have. So that's being corrected as well. So we're refiling that ROE with the correct numbers on it. They are actually eligible for EI and then can move on with that. So just some back end cleanup work, but that's what's been going on the last little while. Questions about anything else that you think I may have missed or anything in general? Certainly it's a great time to have a conversation about anything about the municipality. Hearing nothing, we are going to go in camera after the break. Mr. Bobick's scheduled to join us at 9, so I suspect most of what Mr. Bobick wants to discuss is worthy of in camera anyway. So we'll take our break for 10 minutes, we'll come back, and we'll probably start in camera, and then when he does show up at 9, we'll stop what we're doing, we'll hear from him for a little while, and then we'll continue. That works for everyone? Mm-hmm. All right, then we will be in recess for 10 minutes.
Perfect.
So welcome back everybody from our break. Be it resolved that pursuant to section 1.23 of the Municipal Act, Council shall meet as a committee of the whole to close the meeting and continue discussions in camera regarding personnel matters, negotiations, preliminary discussions, unresolved legal matters, and investigation or enforcement of an act or bylaw. Is there a number, please? Councillor Burick, seconded by Councillor Kushniryk. Any discussion? Those in favor? That is carried. We will stop the recorder.
So, we're good.
So we're rejoining the agenda at 12:03, resolutions arising from in-camera discussions. We don't have any tonight. Does anyone have a notice of motion to present tonight? Don't hear any. Go to number 14 on the agenda. Be it resolved, the meeting shall now adjourn at 10:55 p.m. The next meeting of council, so pay attention here for a moment. Next meeting of council is going to be Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, because we're having a special meeting because of the union.
So
Oh,
what
the
time-
7th.
What time will that be, 7?
So it'll be 7
And
o'clock.
your union meeting will be before that.
Yes, at 5 the committee's meeting. And then at 7, unless somebody's got a conflict with
No, you said that was March 7th, correct?
March 7th.
Yeah, I wrote that down.
Tuesday, March 7th will be our next meeting
At 7,
at 7
Yeah.
p.m. Yes.
And the union.
but that's not our regular
Union
meeting, it's
before
just a
that.
special meeting.
The union committee.
5 o'clock.
You and Brad and me at
At
5.
5.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mover, Councillor Blosha, seconded by Councillor Neely. Any further discussion? Not, those in favor? Those opposed? Those abstaining?
Grandma. I'm for.
Thank you, everyone. for the-
Sorry.